Hello, my name is Angela Jenkins, and I am from South Carolina. I will be speaking to you today in regards to increasing permanency for our youth by decreasing congregate care placements. DSS mission statement is to serve South Carolina by promoting the safety, permanency, and well-being of children and vulnerable adults, helping individuals achieve stability, and strengthening families. We strive to achieve this by following our guided principles and standards practice model. My topic today encompasses all the principles, skills, and values, but I will be focusing on today of engagement. I won't be before you long. This is our agenda for the presentation. And to give you a little bit more about myself, as I stated before, my name is Angela Jenkins. I am from South Carolina DSS, Department of Social Services. My current position is the Program Coordinator 2 for Child Welfare Operations. I do have 15 years of social service experience, 6 years as an investigation supervisor, 11 years total in child welfare, and then 4 years as adult protective services. My purpose today that drives my passion. DSS strongly believes that children and youth in our care are best served in family-like settings. We are committed to a planful transition of all children and youth who are currently in congregate care and whose level of need is appropriate for a family-like setting to either permanency, via reunification with their family, with kin foster adoptive families, or non-kin foster adoptive families when family or kin is not a viable option. So when you look at the table and at the puzzle, who is missing from the puzzle? Here is Timothy. Timothy is one of our youth that was in foster care who gave permission to use his story. Timothy is very vocal about his experience that he's had in the foster care system. He is currently at the age of 19. Timothy did spend a few years in foster care before he was adopted at the age of 7. He does not know his biological father, and his mom died when he was at the age of 3. He did re-enter foster care at the age of 17 and voluntarily signed himself out when he was 18. At that time, Timothy did find himself homeless, but he was able to connect with a local homeless shelter, and he was homeless for about 3 months, and they were able to get him housing. He has no family or fictive kin support. And during his 1.5 years of being back in foster care system, Timothy was placed in 8 different placements. Most of those placements was congregate care. And then throughout my years of working with child welfare, I've seen many success stories, but I've also seen many heartbreaking stories such as Timothy's. He wanted to make sure that we get this voice out from other lived experience foster youth, and how teens do experience the foster care system. So we do continue our work and to make our system better. Teens who are placed in congregate care initially become accustomed to that environment, and that environment becomes their new norm. In going through the process of the MPLD program, we looked at a lot of different disproportionality rates in systems, and I found that this is not just a South Carolina problem, it's a problem throughout the country. As you can see, the population, in the general population from 0 to 17, where Blacks are represented 15%, but in our foster care system, our Black children are represented 25%. And as you can see across the board of entering foster care as well as exiting. So in the next few slides, I will be speaking on expedited permanency meeting, and I will refer to it as the EPM process. Over 50% of our teens were placed in congregate care in 2019. In the fall of 2020, our agency decided to collaborate with the Annie Casey Foundation to develop an intensive strategy to right-size our group care use. And the initial structure was called the Expedited Permanency Meeting. In that crisis that we had, we found an opportunity. So as you can see on the slide, in October 2019, we had 1,386 teens who were in foster care. 51% of those teens were in congregate care placement. When you look at October 2021, our numbers were 1,371 teens were in foster care. 35% of them were in congregate care placement. So as you can see, there was a decrease within those years of doing the EPM process. As stated before, January 2022, the pilot plan of the EPM process did end. However, the essence of the program was still needed. And we continue to work with licensing our kinship placements, as well as incorporating our family first processes. Data shows that our efforts are definitely paying off. So as you can see, we ask ourselves, if staff who conduct an expedited permanency meeting for youth 14 older receive a sheet regarding the tips and other best practices for reducing placement in congregate care, will it result in increased knowledge and utilization of those steps and best practices, with ultimate result being more youth stepping down to achieving permanency in a family setting? So I'll talk to you a little bit about our EPM process because it definitely has structured and shaped where our agency is going now. The EPM process had 4 different cohorts where we took a group of children or a group of teens in congregate care, group care 1 and 2. In South Carolina, we do have 3 different levels of group care. Group care 1 is our youth who do not need as much attention, maybe not have enough, don't have behavior problems or need therapeutic care. Group 2 is when they may start to see those behaviors or may need a little bit more attention or supervision. And group 3 is definitely for our therapeutic teens and older youth. So in the EPM process, there's 3 phases. There have the before the EPM, that's where our staff engages our family and youth. They prepare them for the meeting and they definitely tell them exactly when the meeting is going to happen. During the EPM process, we want to make sure that we are making sure the youth and family are engaged and not just present in the meeting. Their input is important. They are active in their planning and they become the experts of their case plan. After the EPM, this is where we do follow-ups to hold everyone accountable for everything that we decided in the EPM planning process. We do 14-day, 30-day, and 60-day follow-ups with the family and with the youth. So during the research, I interviewed 20 youth, and the 20 youth did come from the last cohort of the EPMs. And these are youth who actually experienced the EPM process. And the data it was definitely positive feedback. The youth felt that they were ready and prepared. They understood the purpose. They felt that some of their questions were answered and addressed. They felt that they were involved in giving their input on their plan, and they felt that it was a safe space. And this process is definitely something different. We've never really had youth involved sitting in the room with providers, staff, their supporters, adult supports, or parents. It's usually just parents in the meetings. But so this was definitely a different process. And I do feel like the youth really appreciated being engaged in the process. The data definitely also shows that there's room for improvement as in every process. We need more improvement on keeping our youth up to date on their case plan, as well as in encouraging them to have a supportive adult present. We did see that about 1/3 of the youth did not want another adult present in the plan. So just encouraging them to have somebody else there as a support. The EPM has the goals for the EPM was to have more children and youth served in their homes, less children and youth experience congregate care, more children and youth in kinship placements, and more children and youth or in family-like settings, whether that be foster homes, adoptive homes, kinship homes. The results of the EPM were actually great. The total number of youth that we did do EPMs with were 323. And as you can see on the chart, 53% of those youth transitions to a family-like setting. 28% still remained in foster care, but efforts were still being made to step those youth down into family-like settings. Many EPM cohort youth were transitions to family and out of group care. A lot of them were in group care placements for over 500 days. The longest stay that we had in the group care was 1,067 days. And that's a long time for a teen to be in a congregate care placement, which is why they probably decided that they did not want to move or be stepped down. The data also showed some gaps in our practice in our system. These are some things that we are working on to change, a need to shift the culture and mindsets through the system. We want to make sure our staff understand the value of youth living with family in a family-like setting. We also want to build the skill and capacity of the workforce in providing training and coaching for the staff to show them how to support the youth and the family when engaging in their own planning, because they are the experts of their own case plan. We also want to expand kinship care and support, continue diligent identification and engagement for the importance of connections for their youth throughout the life of the case and not just when they enter foster care. We also want to develop appropriate quality services, and that goes back to recruiting more foster homes for teens, specifically for teens. So we're not initially placing them in congregate care placement. So after the EPM process, we still felt that we still needed this process, the importance of it, the youth engagement. So we incorporated it in a process that we already have in place, which is called the Child and Family Team Meeting. And we put placement on there because it's definitely about where we're placing these teens at when they come into foster care. So the name now is Placement Child and Family Team Meeting. We started out implementing this process into 10 target counties. These are target counties that were identified to have a large amount of teens in congregate care. The best practice newsletter was sent out to those case managers in that target county. And then we did a survey to get their feedback on the process. We did get 58 respondents back to see their feedback and how did they like the tip sheet. And the goal is to always increase youth engagement and placement options and increase permanency. The other goals for the Placement Child and Family Team Meeting. We want to make sure that we reduce the number of youth in group care 1 and 2, increase use of kinship care, shorten time to permanency, enhance youth and family engagement, allow teaming with our providers, and create a family-centered practice outcome, and decrease overnight placement. So after the surveys and the case reviews of the EPM process, I wanted to create a best practice tip sheet for our frontline staff to reference when implementing the process. With any change in the agency, buy-in is so important. We want to make sure that our staff who's directly working with youth and families understand the changes, that they believe in the changes, and willing to incorporate these changes in their everyday practice. This is an excerpt from the newsletter. It definitely focuses on the youth engagement and why youth engagement is important. It explains the purpose of the changes and then the goals that we want to reach. So one of the questions that were asked in the newsletter, and like I said, there were 58 respondents, was that, do they feel that this newsletter is beneficial? 51%, as you can see, agreed, 33% strongly agreed. And then in this table represents the 11 respondents who actually participated in a child and family team meeting. The combination is a combination of their strongly agree and agree responses. In the interest of presenting this table in the readable form, I did not include the percentages of the respondents who were neutral, disagree, or strongly disagree, but it does add up in the total. For example, to ensure youth participates in their placement CFTM, 82% strongly agreed or agreed. So the other 18% answered neutral, disagree, or strongly disagree. And it was somewhat of a difference before they read the newsletter, and then after they read the newsletter, all of the responses did increase. So that was a positive thing. The other question that was asked was, I think the utilization of the placement CFTM will increase permanency for youth and decrease initial congregate care placements. 45% agreed and 33% strongly agreed. And we did have that 2% that disagreed. The staff will also ask to give some comments on their feedback. These are some comments that actually stood out, that I believe allowing the youth to participate allows them to learn how to advocate for themselves, and it may allow them to feel somewhat in or control in a situation where everything else may feel out of control. I think the agency should reduce the time for permanent placement for youth. And then the other one was, I am hopeful that a placement CFTM will greatly help us secure permanency through the collaboration of agency workers, foster care, foster parents, biological family, and the youth. And that goes back to our engagement, our partnering with each other. And all of this is to help increase the permanency for our youth, teen and older youth. The next steps for our agency, I was definitely happy to be the lead on 2 new strategies that we're putting in place. 2 new strategies that we are doing and implementing is that we have a youth practice model. In the beginning of the presentation, you saw that we have the guided principles model. That is for our agency, and we do try to apply that in everything with our families as well as our staff. But we didn't have anything that directly specific for our youth and older youth. So we want to create a youth practice model that helps them with engagement, helps them with transitioning to a young adulthood. And we also want to implement an extension of foster care. So I will be lead over those 2 groups in the next however long it takes. The best practice tip sheet will also be included as a work aid for staff when they conduct these placement CFTMs. We also want to encourage our leadership to remind their staff the importance of youth engagement when they do their weekly huddles. Weekly huddles is something that they do, a supervisor gets with their unit, and they just meet for about 15-30 minutes on a certain topic or a goal that they want to accomplish for that week. And also their monthly meeting. We want to also increase use of the effective kin and kin license placements, and then assist with ideas to recruit foster homes for teens and older youth. So, the impact of MPLD. I feel like this program has been everything I needed and that I did not know that I needed. It has taught me patience with myself. It's taught me patience with the process and where my career is going. It has definitely pushed me out of my comfort zones. And just waiting on survey responses has probably been the longest. My weakness when I first started the program was data. I told Ms. Sherilyn that in the beginning, and I feel like that made her challenge me even more to do a lot more data. But I'm definitely grateful for the challenge. I've learned so much about data, how to pull it, how to make it, how it changes our practices, how it drives our practices and our policies, and just learning about the different ways that we can show data to our staff. I also feel that the effects of learning about disproportionality and how it's seen in child welfare across the country and not just in South Carolina. And that is definitely work that I would like to still continue to work with. The articles that we read throughout the course was definitely also beneficial, and it helped me with my research, my background research. I'm just overall thankful for the experience with the program, and that it was definitely an opportunity of a lifetime. And I'm definitely happy that my supervisor referred me to this program. And like I stated in the beginning, I do feel that every crisis is an opportunity. And I do see that our agency is moving forward to transformational changes and not just transactional. Thank you for listening to my research project.